Hey again, and welcome to Redacted Nuisance, an interesting 15 minutes of Tinternet where me, Dr. J, use they as pronoun, will ramble on at you for 15 minutes about what is on my mind. And it's called Redactive Nuisance because if I called it Queer Nuisance, there'd be some people who would not be able to access this. So it's redacted. Even though I would like to call it queer, I'm redacting it solely to ensure that it gets out to everybody, not because I'm ashamed of my queerness. In fact, my queerness is, I won't say core to my being, but it is a part of my being that I'm quite proud of. And I'm quite proud to be queer. Um, so I was going to ramble on this time, although that's slightly changed just in saying that sentence. And I'm now pondering which way I shall ramble. Shall I ramble about stating my needs, which is a hard thing, or shall I ramble about pride and queerness, which is also a hard thing? I think I'm going to ramble about pride and queerness and the difference between queerness and other identities. So for me, queer uh, is a personal identity and a political identity, and also how I interact with the world. So let me unpack that kind of in a number of different ways. So my queerness is all about not being not normative. And while that suggests a binary spectrum with normative on one side and queerness on the other, it is not like that inside my mind. My queerness, even when I was a small child, and queerness was something that was used quite pejoratively. My dad would refer to me as queer as a 3 quid note, or being slightly different, being slightly odd. Being queer meant being something that was not us, but was also us but different. Actually, that us but different, I think, is where I'm going to sit with that with my dad. Um, it was about, for me, my queerness at that time was about the fact that I wasn't quite one thing or the other. I couldn't quite find the space where I belonged. So queerness was always that I was different. So when I first came out, everyone would try to describe me as a lesbian, and I always self defined as a queer. And they would cause a little bit of confusion amongst people because they're like, but surely you are of the sapphic vibes. You give off the sapph. You seem to prefer these people over those people. So we are going to put you in a box called lesbian, which never really fitted with me because of my relationships to people of other genders, my relationships to myself, my relationship to my gender was all so open for grabs that lesbian never quite fitted. So I would always use the term queer to describe myself. And I know that for some people of my generation and slightly older, queer is a pejorative term. Queer is a term that was used as abuse, and a lot of people, especially in the late 80s and early 90s, went through a lot of work to reclaim the word queer, and they were reclaiming the word queer as from being a pejorative term to being a term of self-identity and some pride, and it was not just about your sexuality, it was about your relationship with the world, with patriarchal structures, with the way that society is set up, and that is an identity that I feel quite proud of and quite strongly with, which is why I will always identify, I believe, as queer, even if you use it as a pejorative term. Like I care, I've been called worse. I've been called so many things. Calling me queer it's hardly gonna make me cry now. If you call me queer, I'll be like, great, you spotted me, well done. Um, but there's also a pride for me in being queer. There's a pride for me in the fact that I have found a space, I've found an identity, I've found a way of describing myself that I can shorthand off to the rest of the world. That describes not only my relationship to myself, my relationship to others, and my relationship to society. So my relationship to myself, I've got identify as non-binary. Well, actually, identify as transgressive, non-binary, genderqueer, official gender on a statutory declaration, one of the 6 or 7 docu- uh, identity documents that I've got that allowed me eventually to have the right name and the right gender shown on at least half of my identity documents, if not all of them, because the UK doesn't allow an X. So that transgressive non-binary genderqueer identity kind of expresses some of how I feel about myself, but also the notion of being genderqueer, I took it to be that my queerness and my gender expression is one of the primary drivers of who I am. It's one of the things that allows me to describe who I am and how I interact with the world, how I interact with myself. My relationship inside my head to my own body is very queer. Or I, it's Is it different to other people's? I don't know. I can't get inside your head. Is it different to how other people's report? For a lot of the time, yeah. I don't have a cis person's relationship with my body. I grew up being pushed into an identity that I did not feel was congruent with how I saw myself. And that put a lot of pressure on me. And now I'm able to express myself in a way that feels congruent with how I feel inside. So just an example of that expression. I am sitting here wearing scruffy shorts because I'm a New Zealander and it's above 10 degrees, so therefore I'm wearing shorts. They're merino wool shorts because bougie, but also incredibly comfortable. Merino wool wicks away sweat and all of those things. I've got on 3 layers of cotton. I've got a short sleeve t-shirt on, a long sleeve t-shirt, and then a short sleeve t-shirt over the top. But my nails are beautifully painted. I got them done start of the week. So I've got one hand done beautiful red, the other hand done wonderful orange. So the one hand looks, as one friend has described it, like I'm living my best power 80s shoulder pads, working girl Melanie Griffith role, and my right hand looks like I'm a club kid. And I think that describes me. My hair is brightly coloured, but also slightly longer than I usually wear it, in a mullet, and it's not going to be cut for another couple of weeks, so it's going to be incredibly long, and it's very parrot-like. It goes off in all wild colours in different directions. So there's a real mix of traditional masculinity or masculine mask stylings there, and also some very feminine style pieces there, and that mix of both of those is me. My identity is not ultra mask, it's also not ultra femme. It is somewhere weirdly in the middle of a weird mix, and I quite like that, and it feels congruent with who I am, and it makes me feel happy. I wear bright colours most of the time and dress in bright clothes because that makes me feel happy. When I look in the mirror and I see myself dressed in bright colours, I smile back at myself. That is amazing because for the longest time, I could not smile at myself in the mirror. I didn't have that relationship with myself. So now I'm very proud to be outwardly queer. I'm very proud to look at myself and see myself in a mirror and go, hey, that looks really cool. This person looks really different, really amazing. That is a huge, huge thing to have gone through after so many years of just not getting the relationship with my body. It took a long time to sort that out. So that's the queerness around the relationship with my body. My relationship with others is my sexuality, how I build relationships with family, with friends, with lovers, with companions, with everybody. I am polyamorous. I'm polyamorous because I don't I'm not monogamous. I don't find comfort in monogamy. I don't find comfort in that ownership or that model of this is the person for me. I do like. I have in the past had a person in my life. The times that it's been the most comfortable is when it's been in a polyamorous way, and it's been a very openly polyamorous way. One of the things from that is somebody says, you don't have a partner, you have a roster. And that is effectively what I have at the moment. I have a roster of people who I call my fam, who at various points in time will fill in as partner, will fill in as much closer than a friend. Some of them would almost be as close as you can get. I currently don't have any intimate partners. Don't hit me up. I'm going through a major asexual phase. These can last up 5 to 7 years. I've been through them before. I'll come out of it at some point and be back on the market. At the moment, if you think this voice and these thoughts are bringing any interest in you in physical intimacy with me, just hold that thought, and I'll let you know when the queue opens up. God, that makes me sound so fucking arrogant, and I'm sorry if that makes me sound so fucking arrogant. But it's also being very honest about the relationship between my body, myself, and the world, and sexuality, and people, and being queer is being able to state those things in a way that's very clear and very open and very friendly, and not in a way that is in a traditional model. All of the people who I know are in non-traditional models of relationships. Even the two people who I know who appear to be in a very traditional model of a relationship, I don't think are in quite the traditional model of a relationship that people looking in from the outside, from a heteronormative, from a normative perspective, would see. But knowing them as I do, because I'm queer and talking to them, I know that life is a lot more complicated. Everyone's life is complicated, and queerness is sometimes just that ability to talk about that complication. And this also is around the complications of that interactions with society. I'm queer, so I am aware of privilege. I'm aware of intersection. I could be more aware of both of those. I totally agree, and I will wholeheartedly go and do more work. And on my long list is doing a lot more work to decolonize my thinking, because I have a lot of privilege and a colonial background. Well, I come from a colonized country. I was born in New Zealand, and we were colonized by England. Because I'm white, I get a lot of advantages from that colonization. There is a lot of stuff that I would not maybe have quite the same chances, or I would have had a slightly more troublesome ride if I was not white. And I'm very aware of that, and I want to ensure that that doesn't happen. I would like to ensure that the privileges that have been afforded me are not afforded other generations of me, and that the way of supporting people is much more equitable, and people do not get free passes because they turn up in this country as a white person and are told you're not a migrant, you're an expat, and asking people to define that difference. It literally does come down to skin colour in a lot of places. Entire aside, I'll do a full rant on that. But it's about my relationship to societal structures. Not that I don't believe in them, I just think we could do better. Yeah. It's critically examining them and going, what is allowing me to have privilege in this space? Should I have it? No. Why do I have it? Oftentimes, people perceive me as being a white middle class person. I'm like, so wrong, but it's right and wrong all at the same time. And it's very much how do you interact with a society, and how do you knowingly break down structures that have gained you advantage and oppressed others. And that is the real challenge of being queer and having any kind of privilege, is examining that privilege and going, what can I do? And for me, it's a lot about ensuring that I lift others up, that I use the advantages that I've been given to feed back, and to ensure that people who have less advantages than I do get my help, get the chances to be uplifted, ensuring that I never pull up the ladder behind me. I don't take an advantage and continue going. I go, no, I've had an advantage here. I will take what I have earned or learnt or whatever this has offered me, and I will find a way to lift others others up, which I think is kind of the queer response. So, am I proud of being queer? Yeah, I think I am. I'm proud of being queer in the way that I enact it. Maybe that means that I'm proud of being me. Shit. When did that happen?